And if God did it for me, he'll do the same thing for you. Don't worry about your haters. Your haters can't do nothing with you. Listen to these words. Love is patient, caring. Love is kind. Love is felt most. Love is felt most when it's genuine. You are love. I had my share of love abuse, manipulation, and its strength, misuse. And I can't help but to give God glory. When I think about my story, oh yeah, y'all, I got a story to tell.
Good evening and welcome back to the Addiction Show on tonight. I'm just blessed to be here and I'm glad that you are here joining us on this evening. I'm just thanking God for all that He have done. You know, every time I think about being in a privileged position to give out information that I have collected through be it academic or experiential knowledge, I'm just feel privileged and blessed to be able to come from where I came from and to be able to be sitting here before you on tonight talking about addiction. Because one is that is my passion, and I just give all honor and I give all glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who put special people in my life, and the name of Parish Mormon, Pastor Parish Mormon, who allowed his vision that God has given him to open doors for individuals like myself to be able to express and share knowledge about this addiction and how powerful this addiction is and how much of a negative effect that it has on our community. And as of lately, we have been talking about addiction from a personal perspective, how the addiction affect the individual from the inside and then have them to carry out actions on the outside. But on today, we're talking about addiction, how it's viewed from an external perspective, understanding the negative effects of drugs, alcohol as it pertains to the legal system, the judicial system, and the social environment that we deal with on an everyday basis. And what I'm talking about is the war on drugs. And in America, addiction has been diagnosed as a mental condition. It's diagnosed as a disease of alcoholism, of drug addiction. It is a disease. However, this disease is being used to criminalize people that look like me and talk like me. And so on today, I'm talking about how we look at this here war on drugs and what the war on drugs really is. Now, as a result of doing some extensive research, I found out that when you're looking at the war on drugs, the devastation that it has on the families as it pertains to the African American, as it pertains to the people of color, and as it pertains to the poor, there is a commonality in the drug addiction and the incarceration. And I just want to talk about that on tonight with this few minutes that I've been privileged to share with you on tonight, because I'm disturbed to the point where I'm angered at how unjust the laws that have been implemented to affect the people that are that have been affected by the drugs and alcohol. For an example, there is a law, and mind you, I'm not taking a political stance for Democrats or the Republicans, because when it comes to war on drugs, both parties and all parties has been devastating as it pertains to pushing out these laws. And because of its political abuse, that anytime the someone is campaigning into beginning to either retain their seat or to begin to get into a new seat, the first thing they want to do is become hard on criminals, as if those who are suffering from alcohol and drug addiction are criminals. And you have to pay close attention to the racial lines that's in there, the how racism plays a part in the legislation writing, and that the common folk don't even pay close attention to unless they have been victimized by it. For an example, there was a legislation that was put together and was signed off by a Democratic Bill Clinton as it pertains to the crack cocaine versus the powder cocaine. And what happens is that if you get 1% of the crack cocaine, you have to have another 100 of ounces of, if you get a gram of cocaine in the crack form, and you got 100 grams of cocaine in the powder form, your consequences is the same. But what is real tricky about it and conning about it is this, is that the crack cocaine is the form that you see in the African American communities and in the poor community, and in the powder form you see that in the rural areas where there is no presence of the African Americans, minimum presence there. And so when we look at this here, we have to pay close attention to how this here law and this legislation was used as a vehicle to send a whole lot of brothers and of color and the poor to the penitentiary. And it's a vicious cycle, and no one, no legislation, no government, no judge, no prosecutor, no defender, the police, the sheriffs, and no one can legitimately say that they have no legitimate argument to stand on to saying that the war on drugs is actually working. No one from either parties or no party to say that it's working. However, it's still going full steam ahead. Brothers is being sent to the penitentiary and given 25 years as if they was passing out some free cheese or free toast or something. People were really suffering as a result of that. And how is it that you can say that addiction is a disease that is treatable, and yet you are criminalizing the individuals that are being that are hooked on drugs, are being victimized by drugs, but not yet bringing the drugs into the country? So we have a real dilemma, a conflict of interest there, because the war on drugs is really not the war on drugs at all. And it never was. The war on drugs was basically just a vehicle to use that to make money at the expense of the lives of the African Americans, as well as the people of color and the poor. And when you look at it from a statistical perspective, we're looking at 13% of the African Americans in the nation. Yet it's 93% of the African Americans that are being charged with drugs and alcohol that's inside of the penitentiary. That just don't make no sense. So if we have to really pay attention to, are we going to treat this or address this here disease of addiction for what it is, which is a disease, or are we going to criminalize individuals that are suffering from this disease? If a person has cancer, people don't go to jail because they have cancer or having it. So we have to be more empathetic, and we have to really look at things for what it really is, because the truth has been laid out real clear. And I don't think America really paying attention to the laws and the legislation that they're putting in play that affects the people. Because one thing I know and understand is that now that white America are being taken to jail and being pulled and sucked up into this here vicious penitentiary vacuum, now America is paying attention and having discussion around changing legislation. But when African Americans was being pulled in there on a regular basis, no one had a voice. No one had a voice to speak against this here atrocity. So we have to really start waking up and paying attention about what's really going on in America, because now the white are going, because the laws had allowed them to escape with the powder. But there's a drug that is called, that is the street name is called crystal meth. And what happens is that this crystal meth is the drug of choice for the Caucasians. And now that they are being caught with these crystal meth, you have individuals that lost their job and they setting up these crystal meth uh, operations where they are producing this at a mass scale. And now they're getting caught. They're going to the penitentiary and they given the same time. And then the same legislation who wrote the law saying that if you get caught with powder cocaine also came back and signed an agreement saying that you get 3 strikes and you out. Now people that don't look like me getting 3 strikes and filling these penitentiaries up, and they even, now that the legislation have fell short on Black America, now it's falling on white America, and now they're considering changing the laws. I wish that we had more time to dissect this here situation, but I just wanted to put it out there so we can start doing some research and start looking into how we're going to get into some solutions of dealing with this. One of the solutions that we're dealing with this, and my mother told me this long time ago, she said, if you want to know, if you want to deal with the problem, you must first identify the problem. What's the problem? That addiction in America is serious, and I think we need to have discussions in our homes, in our churches, in our schools, not just about this is your brain on crack, which I believe was a subliminal way of marketing. No, we have to talk about other alternatives or how we need to mold our children's mind and our thinking towards reaching their goal versus have to dealing with these drugs and these alcohol. 2, then we have to get an understanding of the drugs and the alcohol. We have to understand the cause and the condition. We have to understand the effect. We have to understand signs and symptoms, how we're able to identify somebody that is struggling with this here so we can do an intervention that will interrupt the drug addiction. And then 3, we have to come up with a solution. And the solution is total abstinence. There is no way that you're going to address your addiction without total abstinency. So we have to begin to look at the processes of just alleviating this here from your system totally. And once we begin to do that, we're well on our way to a better America, a better tomorrow, and a better future, not just for us, but for our children. Because if we don't teach them about these drugs and alcohol, the streets will. And you have to pay attention because the drug epidemic resurfaced from the 70s and it's resurfaced again in 1982 to epidemic proportion. And then it began to accelerate to pandemic proportions to where so it was a nationwide epidemic. And so now we are at a point to where so these drugs are continuing to damage the minds of our children, damaging the minds of the individuals who are suffering from it. And we have to understand that all of this, all of the murders that's going on across the country and all of the murders that's going on in the homes and stuff is a direct result from these children. These are the children that was classified before they became politically correct, classified as the crack babies. And so we have to address the realities, we have to deal with these issues, and we have to face these challenging moments. And the only way that we're going to face these challenging moments is those that have overcame these adversities. We have to do just like the one leper did. We have to come back and continue to combat this issue, or we're going to go back down that dark road again. And let me tell you something, that dark road is no place for any man, woman, or child to be in. I just want to thank you, and I want to continue to ask that you pray for us as we continue to move forward, being obedient to God's will and His word as we move forward on these shows. And again, I just want to thank you again. God bless you, and enjoy the balance of your evening.